15 years together, and it turns out I've been with a stranger.
The DNA test results arrived on a Tuesday morning while I was changing Maddie's diaper. And let me tell you, nothing prepares you for the phrase possible non-paternity detected when you're elbow deep in baby wipes at 6 a.m. My name is Matt Reardon. I'm 34 years old. I fix computers for a living. And until that moment, I thought my biggest problem was surviving what I'd been calling the sleep deprivation Olympics with my 4-week-old daughter. My wife Erica had been training for her own event, the How Fast Can I Abandon My Family for a Girls' Trip to Cancun marathon. Honey, I called to Erica, who was in the bathroom applying what looked like enough makeup to paint a small aircraft. Did you know the hospital sends DNA results automatically now? What? She yelled back, her voice echoing off the tiles. I can't hear you over my hairdryer. Convenient. I stared at the paper again, hoping the words would rearrange themselves into something less life-destroying. They didn't. Maddie gurgled at me from her changing table, completely oblivious to the fact that she might not be mine, and that her mother was about to disappear for a long weekend of what Erica's friends called self-care, but what I was starting to suspect was something else entirely. The bathroom door opened, and Erica emerged in a cloud of perfume and hairspray, looking like she was heading to a photo shoot rather than spending time with her newborn. She wore a tight red dress that screamed, "I'm definitely not planning to stay in my hotel room watching pay-per-view movies." "What were you saying about DNA?" she asked, not really listening as she checked her phone for the 100th time that morning. "Nothing important," I said, folding the paper and slipping it into my pocket. "Just wondering why the hospital would run tests without telling us." She shrugged. "Probably some insurance thing. You know how hospitals are." She grabbed her suitcase, which seemed awfully large for a 3-day trip. "Kayla and Tiff are picking me up in 20 minutes. You'll be fine with Maddie, right? I mean, you're her father." The way she said father made my stomach twist, like she was testing the word, seeing how it felt in her mouth. "Of course," I said. "We'll have a great time, won't we, Maddie?" Maddie responded by spitting up on my shoulder. At least someone in this family was being honest about how they felt. Erica's phone buzzed with a text, and her face lit up in a way it hadn't when she looked at our daughter. "They're here. Okay, I'm gone. Love you both." She gave me a quick peck on the cheek and was out the door before I could respond. Through the window, I watched her climb into Kayla's SUV, laughing at something Tiff was showing her on a phone screen. They drove off in a cloud of exhaust and excitement, leaving me standing in my living room holding a baby who might not be mine, and a piece of paper that was about to change everything. I spent the next hour feeding Maddie and trying to convince myself that DNA tests could be wrong. False positives happened, right? Labs made mistakes. Maybe some intern had mixed up the samples, or there was a computer glitch, or my phone buzzed with a notification from Instagram. Erica had posted a video. I almost dropped Maddie. The video showed my wife in what looked like a hotel room, making out with some guy I'd never seen before. A tall, muscular guy with perfect teeth and the kind of tan that comes from spending too much time at the gym. The caption read, "Single for the weekend, mommies need to rest too. #self-care, #living, my best life, sorry not sorry." I watched it 3 times before it sank in. My wife, the mother of the baby I was currently holding, had just announced to the internet that she was single and ready to mingle, approximately 4 hours after leaving our house. The comments were already pouring in. Heart eye emojis from her friends. "Get it, girl," from Kayla. "You deserve this," from Tiff. And then, buried in the middle, a comment from someone named Cole_Benton37. "Can't wait to see you again, beautiful." I clicked on his profile. Cole Benton, owner of Apex Fitness Gym. The same gym where Erica had been getting back in shape after Maddie was born. The same gym she'd been visiting 3 times a week, claiming she needed to feel like herself again. Suddenly, a lot of things started making sense. The late nights, the new clothes, the way she'd been distant since Maddie was born, like she was already somewhere else in her head. I looked down at Maddie, who was sleeping peacefully in my arms. "Well, kiddo," I whispered. "Looks like Daddy's got some detective work to do." The first thing I did was call the DNA lab. After being transferred 4 times and explaining my situation to increasingly bored-sounding technicians, I finally reached someone who could help. "Mr. Reardon," the lab tech said, "I can expedite a confirmation test if you'd like. Sometimes there are processing errors, but we'd need a new sample to be sure." "How long would that take?" "Rush processing? 3 days?" 3 days. Erica would be back by then, probably with a tan and a head full of stories about how relaxing her trip had been. But 3 days was also enough time for me to do some investigating of my own. I spent the rest of the afternoon setting up what I like to call Operation Reality Check. First, I used the Find My iPhone feature to track Erica's location. She'd never bothered to turn it off, probably because she never expected me to check. According to the app, she wasn't in Cancun. She was in downtown Denver, at a hotel about 20 minutes from Cole Benton's gym. Next, I called my neighbor Pete, who worked from home and owed me a favor after I'd fixed his computer for free. "I need you to watch Maddie for a couple hours," I told him. "Sure thing," Pete said. "Everything okay? You sound weird." "Just peachy. I'm about to find out if my life is a complete lie, but other than that, everything's fantastic." "Jesus, Matt, what happened?" "I'll tell you later. Right now, I need to go catch my wife in the act of being a terrible person." Pete came over within 10 minutes, took one look at my face, and didn't ask any more questions. I handed him a bottle and a list of instructions, grabbed my car keys, and headed for downtown Denver. The hotel was one of those boutique places that charged $300 a night for rooms the size of my closet. I parked across the street and waited, feeling like the world's most pathetic private investigator. After about an hour, I saw them. Erica and Cole walked out of the hotel lobby hand in hand, laughing about something. She was wearing different clothes than when she'd left that morning, a tight black dress that I'd never seen before. Cole was exactly what I'd expected, gym rat handsome, with arms like tree trunks and the kind of confident swagger that probably worked on every woman he met. They got into a cherry red Mustang convertible, because of course he drove a Mustang, and headed toward the gym district. I followed at a distance, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles were white. They stopped at Apex Fitness, Cole's gym. Even from the parking lot, I could see it was the kind of place that attracted people who took mirror selfies and drank protein shakes for breakfast. All glass and chrome and motivational posters about crushing your goals. I sat in my car for another 20 minutes, watching them through the windows. They weren't working out. They were making out against the reception desk like teenagers, completely oblivious to the fact that anyone could see them. That's when I decided that if Erica wanted to play games, I'd give her a game she'd never forget. I drove home, relieved Pete of babysitting duty, and spent the evening planning. The new DNA test results would take 3 days. Erica would be back in 2. That gave me exactly 48 hours to gather evidence and decide what I wanted to do with it. By the time I went to bed that night, I had a plan. It wasn't a particularly mature plan, and it definitely wasn't the kind of thing they recommend in marriage counseling books, but it was going to be satisfying as hell. The next morning, I started with something simple. I called the credit card company and reported Erica's card as stolen. Not technically illegal, since it was a joint account, but it would definitely ruin her shopping plans. Then I drove back to Apex Fitness with a bag full of supplies I'd picked up at the grocery store. 3 pounds of raw shrimp, a container of glitter, and a bottle of Liquid A, a novelty stink bomb I'd ordered online for Pete's birthday as a joke, but never used. Cole's Mustang was parked in the gym's lot, gleaming in the morning sun like a beacon of douchebaggery. I waited until the parking lot was empty, then got to work. First, I disabled the car alarm by disconnecting the battery for 30 seconds and reconnecting it, a trick I'd learned from YouTube. Then I opened all the doors and got creative. I stuffed the raw shrimp into every crevice I could find. Under the seats, in the glove compartment, in the air vents, the glitter went everywhere. On the seats, the dashboard, the floor mats. It was like a unicorn had exploded. Finally, I cracked open the Liquid A and poured it onto the upholstery. The smell was immediate and overwhelming. I had to step back and breathe through my mouth to keep from gagging. For the finishing touch, I left a note on the windshield. "Thought you might like to know what your relationship with my wife smells like. Erica's husband." Then I got back in my car and drove to a coffee shop across the street to wait. It took about an hour for Cole to come out of the gym. I watched through the coffee shop window as he approached his car, saw the note, and opened the driver's side door. Even from across the street, I could see his reaction. He stumbled backward, holding his nose, and started yelling at no one in particular. He tried to get in the car, but the smell was too much. After a few minutes of standing there looking defeated, he pulled out his phone and called someone, probably a towing company. I took a picture of him standing next to his ruined Mustang and posted it to the gym's Facebook page with the caption, "Apex Fitness, where relationships go to die." It wasn't much, but it was a start. When I got home, Pete was waiting on my front porch with a beer and a knowing look. "So," he said, "want to tell me what's really going on?" I told him everything: the DNA test, the video, the hotel, the shrimp incident. By the time I finished, Pete was laughing so hard he was crying. "Jesus, Matt," he said, "remind me never to piss you off. That's the most beautiful revenge I've ever heard." "It's not over yet," I said. "That was just the opening act." That evening, my phone rang. It was Erica, and she sounded panicked. "Matt, something's wrong with my credit card. It's not working, and the hotel is threatening to kick me out." "That's weird," I said, bouncing Maddie on my knee. "Maybe it got hacked. You know how these things happen. Can you call the bank and fix it?" "I'll try, but you know how banks are. It might take a few days to sort out." There was a long pause. "A few days? Matt, I need that card to work. I can't afford to stay here without it." "Maybe you should come home early," I suggested. "I mean, if you're having financial problems." Another pause. "I can't come home early. This trip is important for my mental health." "Right. Your mental health. How's that going, by the way? Feeling relaxed?" "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing. Just wondering if you're getting the kind of rest you need." She hung up without saying goodbye. The next morning brought the confirmation DNA test results. I opened the envelope with shaking hands, half hoping I'd been wrong about everything. I wasn't. The test confirmed it. Maddie wasn't my biological daughter. The probability of paternity was less than 1%, which meant that for the past 4 weeks I'd been raising another man's child while my wife played house with her boyfriend. I stared at the paper for a long time, feeling something cold and hard settle in my chest. It wasn't anger, exactly. It was something deeper and more dangerous. It was the feeling of a man who had nothing left to lose. I called Pete. "It's confirmed," I said. "She's not mine." "Crap, Matt. I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry. Be ready. Because we're about to escalate the situation. What do you need me to do?" "How do you feel about a little breaking and entering?" Pete was quiet for a moment. "Depends. Are we talking about the legal kind or the illegal kind? The kind where we don't get caught?" "I'm in." That afternoon, while Erica was still stranded at her hotel, Pete and I drove to Cole's apartment complex. It was one of those modern places with a gym and a pool and rent that probably cost more than my mortgage. Getting into the building was easier than I'd expected. We waited until someone was leaving, then slipped in behind them like we belonged there. Cole's apartment was on the 3rd floor, and his door had one of those electronic locks that looked impressive, but was actually pretty easy to bypass if you knew what you were doing. I learned a lot about electronic locks during my years in IT support. Amazing how much criminal knowledge you can pick up from legitimate sources. The apartment was exactly what I'd expected. All black leather and chrome, with a wall of mirrors and enough protein powder to feed a small army. The place screamed, "I peaked in high school and never got over it." Pete and I got to work. We didn't steal anything or break anything valuable. Instead, we focused on psychological warfare. I reprogrammed his smart TV to only play children's shows. I changed all his contacts in his phone to Disney princess names. I replaced his protein powder with flour. And in his bedroom, I found something that made everything even better. A stash of steroids hidden in his sock drawer. "Holy crap," Pete whispered. "Is that what I think it is?" "Yep. Our boy Cole is juicing." I took pictures of everything, then carefully put it all back exactly where I'd found it. The steroids weren't illegal to possess, but they were definitely against the rules at most gyms, especially if you were a trainer. For the finishing touch, we filled his bathroom with shaving cream and left another note. "This is what happens when you mess with someone else's family. A concerned citizen." We were out of there in less than 30 minutes, and no one saw us leave. That evening, I created a fake email account and sent the steroid photos to the board of directors at Apex Fitness, along with a detailed explanation of how their head trainer was violating their pill policy. I also sent copies to several other gyms in the area, just to make sure Cole's reputation was thoroughly destroyed. Then I sat back and waited for the fireworks to begin. They didn't take long. The next morning, I got a call from an unknown number. When I answered, a man's voice said, "Is this Matt Reardon?" "Depends who's asking." "This is Cole Benton. I think we need to talk." "I think we do too. Where do you want to meet?" "Riverside Park, 1 hour. Come alone." I almost laughed. "This isn't a movie, Cole. I'm not coming alone to meet the guy who's been sleeping with my wife." "Fine, bring whoever you want, but we're going to settle this like men." "Looking forward to it." I called Pete and we drove to Riverside Park together. Cole was already there, waiting by the playground with his arms crossed and a scowl on his face. He looked like he hadn't slept much, and his perfect hair was disheveled. "You've been busy," he said when I walked up. "Not as busy as you," I replied. "How's the car smell, by the way?" His jaw tightened. "You think you're clever, don't you?" I think I'm a guy whose wife has been lying to him and whose daughter isn't actually his daughter, so yeah, I'm feeling pretty clever right now. Cole looked surprised. "Erica told you about Maddie?" "Erica didn't tell me crap. I figured it out myself. DNA tests are amazing things." "Look," Cole said, "I didn't know she was married when we first started seeing each other." "Bees. I'm serious. She told me she was separated. Said you were getting divorced." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "And you believed her? Even after she moved back in with me? Even after she had a baby and we named it together?" Cole had the decency to look uncomfortable. "She said it was complicated." "It's not complicated anymore. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to stay away from my wife. You're going to stay away from my house. And you're going to stay away from me. And if I don't, then I'll release the video." "What video?" I pulled out my phone and showed him the screen. It was security footage from his apartment building showing Pete and me entering and leaving. "This video, the one that shows me breaking into your apartment. The one that also shows your face clearly when you came home and found the surprise we left you." Cole stared at the phone. "You're bluffing." "Am I? You want to test that theory? Because I've got nothing left to lose here, Cole. My marriage is over. My daughter isn't mine. My wife has been lying to me for months. So go ahead, call my bluff. See what happens when a man with nothing to lose decides to burn everything down." Cole looked at Pete, who was standing behind me with his arms crossed and his best intimidating expression. Pete wasn't a big guy, but he had the look of someone who'd been in his share of fights. "This isn't over," Cole said finally. "Yeah, it is," I replied. "You just don't know it yet." Cole walked away and Pete and I headed back to my car. "Think he'll stay away?" Pete asked. "Not a chance. Guys like Cole don't back down easy, but that's okay. I'm counting on it." "What's the next move?" "Now we wait for Erica to come home, and when she does, we're going to have a conversation she'll never forget." Erica returned from her girls' trip the next evening looking tanned and relaxed, and completely oblivious to the fact that her world was about to implode. She walked into the house like nothing had changed, gave me a perfunctory kiss on the cheek, and immediately started gushing about how amazing her vacation had been. "You should have seen the beach," she said, unpacking her suitcase in our bedroom. "It was absolutely beautiful. And the hotel had this incredible spa. I feel like a new woman." "I bet you do," I said, watching her carefully. "Meet anyone interesting?" "Just the girls. You know how it is. Girl talk, margaritas, relaxation." She was a better liar than I'd given her credit for. If I hadn't seen the Instagram video and followed her to Cole's hotel, I might have actually believed her. "How's Maddie been?" she asked, finally acknowledging our daughter's existence. "She's been great. We had some quality bonding time." "Good. I knew you'd be fine on your own." She didn't ask for details. Didn't seem interested in what Maddie had been doing or how she'd been sleeping or eating. It was like she was going through the motions of being a mother without actually caring about the role. That night, after Erica had gone to sleep, I sat in the living room with Maddie and made a decision. I was going to destroy both of them, Erica and Cole. But I was going to do it legally and systematically. I wasn't going to lose my temper or do anything stupid that would hurt my chances in court. Because even though Maddie wasn't biologically mine, I'd been her father for 4 weeks. I'd changed her diapers, fed her bottles, walked the floor with her when she cried. And I'd be damned if I was going to let Erica and her boyfriend take that away from me. The next morning, I called a lawyer. "I need to file for divorce," I told him. "And I need to make sure I get custody of my daughter." "Is she your biological child?" "No. But I'm the only father she's ever known, and her mother is an unfit parent." "That's going to be complicated. What evidence do you have of unfitness?" I told him about the Instagram video, the hotel receipts I'd gathered, the abandonment of a 4-week-old baby for a vacation with her boyfriend. By the time I finished, the lawyer was taking notes. "This is definitely workable," he said. "But you need to be careful. Don't do anything that could be construed as maltreatment or stalking. Document everything, but do it legally." "What about the father, the biological father?" "If he wants parental rights, he'll have to establish paternity and petition the court. But given the circumstances, you have a strong case for being considered the psychological father." I left the lawyer's office feeling better than I had in days. I had a plan, I had evidence, and I had the law on my side. But Erica and Cole weren't done making my life difficult. That afternoon, while I was at work, Erica called me in a panic. "Matt, someone broke into Cole's apartment. The police want to talk to both of us." My blood went cold. "Why would they want to talk to us?" "Because apparently someone left a note mentioning you. They think it might be related to some kind of domestic dispute." "That's ridiculous. Why would I break into some random guy's apartment?" "Don't play dumb, Matt. I know you know about Cole." There it was. Finally, some honesty. "Know what about Cole?" "That we've been seeing each other." "Look, I was going to tell you, I just didn't know how." "You were going to tell me that you've been cheating on me with some gym rat while I've been home taking care of a baby that isn't even mine." Silence on the other end of the line. "How long have you known?" she asked finally. "About the cheating or about Maddie not being mine?" "Both." "Long enough. The question is, what are we going to do about it?" "I want a divorce," she said, "and I want custody of Maddie." I laughed. Actually laughed. "Good luck with that. You abandoned a 4-week-old baby to go sleep with your boyfriend in a hotel. I've got the Instagram video to prove it." "That video was a joke. I was just having fun." "Tell it to the judge." I hung up and immediately called my lawyer. "They know about the apartment," I told him, "but they can't prove anything. What do I do if the police want to talk to me?" "Tell them you don't know anything about any break-in and that you want a lawyer present if they have any more questions. And for God's sake, don't admit to anything." That evening, 2 detectives showed up at my door. They were polite but persistent, asking questions about my relationship with Cole Benton and whether I'd been to his apartment recently. "I don't know anyone named Cole Benton," I lied smoothly, "and I've never been to anyone's apartment. I've been home taking care of my daughter." "Your wife says you know about her relationship with Mr. Benton." "My wife says a lot of things. Doesn't make them true." The detectives looked at each other. "Mr. Reardon, we're going to need you to come down to the station for some additional questions." "Am I under arrest?" "No, sir. We just want to clear some things up." "Then I'll have to decline. If you want to question me further, you can contact my lawyer." I gave them the lawyer's card and closed the door. Through the window, I watched them sit in their car for another 10 minutes, probably discussing whether they had enough evidence to arrest me. They didn't. They drove away and I didn't hear from them again. But the police visit had rattled me. I realized I needed to be smarter about my revenge, more subtle, less traceable. That's when I decided to go nuclear. The next morning, I created a Facebook page called Denver Cheaters Exposed and posted everything I had: the Instagram video of Erica making out with Cole, the hotel receipts, the photos of them together, even screenshots of Cole's steroid stash. I didn't use their real names, but I included enough identifying information that anyone who knew them would recognize them immediately. The page went viral within hours. Hundreds of shares, thousands of comments, and more than a few people who recognized Erica and Cole from the photos. The comments ranged from supportive, "You deserve better," to brutal, "What a skank," to helpful, "I know a good divorce lawyer." But the best part was watching Erica's social media accounts explode with notifications as her friends, family, and coworkers saw the posts. Her Instagram went from public to private within an hour. Her Facebook page disappeared entirely. Her LinkedIn profile suddenly became unavailable. Cole's gym fired him that same day. Apparently, the steroid photos had been the last straw, and the negative publicity from the cheating scandal was more than they could handle. By evening, both of their lives had been thoroughly destroyed, and I hadn't technically done anything illegal. Everything I'd posted was true and verifiable. I hadn't made any threats or engaged in maltreatment. I'd simply shared information that was already available. But I wasn't done yet. That night, Erica came home in tears. "How could you do this to me?" she sobbed. "Everyone I know has seen those photos. My boss called me into his office and asked if I was having personal problems. My mother won't even talk to me." "Maybe you should have thought about that before you decided to cheat on your husband and abandon your baby," I replied calmly. "I made a mistake. I was confused and overwhelmed, and you made a choice. You chose Cole over your family. You chose a weekend of fun over your responsibilities. You chose to lie to me for months while I took care of a child that isn't even mine." She stared at me. "You're not the same person I married." "You're right. The person you married was naive enough to believe that his wife loved him. The person you married trusted people and gave them the benefit of the doubt. That person is gone." What do you want from me? I want you to move out. I want you to stay away from Maddie until the custody hearing. And I want you to think very carefully about whether you really want to go to court. Because if you do, I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of mother you are. Erica left that night and went to stay with Kayla. She took 2 suitcases and her laptop, but she didn't ask to take Maddie with her. For the first time in weeks, the house was quiet. I thought that would be the end of it. I thought Erica and Cole would slink away and lick their wounds and leave me alone to figure out how to be a single father. I was wrong. 3 days later, Cole showed up at my house. It was late, almost midnight, and I was up feeding Maddie when I heard someone pounding on my front door. I looked through the peephole and saw Cole standing on my porch, swaying slightly. He was drunk, angry, and probably dangerous. I put Maddie in her crib, grabbed the baseball bat I kept by my bed, and went to the door. "Go home, Cole," I called through the door. "You're drunk. Open the damn door, Matt. We need to talk." "No, we don't. Get off my property before I call the police." "You ruined my life, you piece of crap. I lost my job because of you." "You lost your job because you're a cheater and a steroid user. I just made sure people knew about it." Cole started kicking the door. "Open up. I know you're in there." I called 911 and reported a drunken, disorderly person trying to break into my house. Then I went upstairs and got my phone ready to record whatever happened next. Cole kept pounding on the door and shouting threats until the police arrived. I watched from my bedroom window as they arrested him for public intoxication and attempted breaking and entering. The next morning, I got a call from my lawyer. "Cole Benton was arrested at your house last night," he said. "This is actually good for us. It shows a pattern of maltreatment and unstable behavior. If he's the biological father, this will hurt his chances of getting custody." "What about Erica?" "She filed a motion yesterday requesting immediate custody of the child. We have a hearing next week." "What are our chances?" "Better than they were yesterday, especially if she's still associating with Mr. Benton." The custody hearing was a disaster for Erica. She showed up to court wearing a conservative dress and minimal makeup, trying to look like a responsible mother. But my lawyer had done his homework. He presented the Instagram video, the hotel receipts, the Facebook posts, and a detailed timeline of Erica's abandonment of Maddie. He also presented evidence of her relationship with Cole, including the arrest report from the night he'd tried to break into my house. Erica's lawyer tried to argue that she'd been suffering from postpartum depression and had made some poor choices, but that she was committed to being a good mother. My lawyer countered by pointing out that postpartum depression didn't typically involve planning elaborate vacation deceptions or posting videos of yourself making out with other men. The judge was not impressed with Erica. "Mrs. Reardon," she said, "you abandoned a 4-week-old infant to engage in an extramarital affair. You posted inappropriate content on social media that suggests you were not taking your parental responsibilities seriously. And you're involved with a man who has been arrested for attempting to break into your husband's home." "Your Honor," Erica's lawyer said, "my client admits she made some mistakes, but—" "These aren't mistakes," the judge interrupted. "These are choices. Poor choices that demonstrate a lack of judgment and maturity." The judge awarded me temporary custody of Maddie, with supervised visitation for Erica. She also ordered both of us to undergo psychological evaluations and parenting classes. Walking out of that courthouse with legal custody of Maddie was one of the best moments of my life. But I knew it wasn't over yet. Erica and Cole were both desperate, broke, and angry. Desperate people do stupid things. I was right. 2 weeks later, on a Friday night, they tried to take Maddie. I was in the kitchen making a bottle when I heard a car pull into my driveway. Through the window, I saw Cole's replacement Mustang. Apparently, he'd managed to get his old one cleaned and was driving it again. Erica and Cole got out of the car and walked up to my front door like they owned the place. I quickly put Maddie in her car seat and carried her upstairs to my bedroom, then locked the door and called 911. "There are 2 people trying to break into my house," I told the dispatcher. "One of them has been arrested here before. I have a restraining order against both of them." I didn't actually have a restraining order, but I figured it would get the police here faster. Downstairs, I could hear Cole kicking the front door while Erica shouted, "We know you're in there, Matt. We just want to see Maddie." "This is kidnapping," Cole yelled. "That's not even your kid." I started recording everything on my phone. If they actually managed to break in, I wanted evidence of what happened next. The front door held, but I heard the sound of breaking glass from the back of the house. They'd broken the sliding door in the kitchen. "Matt," Erica called out. "We're not here to hurt anyone. We just want to talk." I heard footsteps on the stairs. "We know you're up there," Cole shouted. "Just come out and we can settle this like adults." They tried the bedroom door handle. When it didn't turn, Cole started throwing his shoulder against the door. That's when I heard the sirens. "Crap," Erica hissed. "Someone called the cops." "We can still get the kid," Cole said. "Break down the door. Are you insane? They'll arrest us." "They're going to arrest us anyway. We might as well get what we came for." The bedroom door splintered but didn't break. Cole hit it again, and this time it gave way. He burst into the room just as the police were coming up the stairs behind him. "Nobody move," an officer shouted. "Hands in the air." Cole spun around, saw the officers, and raised his hands. Erica was right behind him, crying and trying to explain that they weren't doing anything wrong. "That man kidnapped my daughter," she told the police. "We just wanted to see her. Ma'am, step away from the door and put your hands behind your back." "This is a misunderstanding. I'm her mother." But the police had heard my 911 call, and they could see the broken door downstairs and the splintered bedroom door. It was pretty clear who the aggressors were. They arrested both Erica and Cole for breaking and entering, destruction of property, and violation of a court order. The fact that I'd mentioned a restraining order in my 911 call didn't matter. They'd still broken into my house while I was there with a baby. After they were taken away, I sat in my bedroom holding Maddie and realized that I was shaking. Not from fear, but from adrenaline and something that felt almost like satisfaction. They'd finally gone too far. They'd committed actual crimes that couldn't be explained away or minimized, and they'd done it in front of witnesses, with everything recorded. My lawyer was ecstatic when I called him the next morning. "This changes everything," he said. "Breaking into your home while you had custody of the child? That's not just criminal, it's evidence of unfitness and dangerous behavior. No judge is going to give her custody now." What about Cole? Can he still claim parental rights? A man who breaks into houses to steal children? I doubt any judge would consider him a fit parent, biological or not. The criminal trial happened first. Both Erica and Cole pled guilty to reduced charges in exchange for probation and community service. But the damage was done. They were now convicted criminals with a history of domestic violence and child endangerment. The custody hearing was a formality after that. The judge took one look at their criminal records and awarded me permanent custody of Maddie, with no visitation rights for either of them. "Mr. Reardon," the judge said, "while this child may not be your biological daughter, it's clear that you are her psychological and emotional father. You've demonstrated stability, responsibility, and a commitment to her welfare that her biological parents have not." Erica cried during the entire hearing. Cole didn't show up at all. That night, I sat in my living room with Maddie sleeping in my arms and thought about everything that had happened. 6 months ago, I'd been a naive husband who trusted his wife and believed in happy endings. Now I was a single father with full custody of a daughter who wasn't biologically mine, and I'd systematically destroyed 2 people who'd tried to destroy me first. I should have felt guilty. I should have felt like I'd gone too far, or that I'd become someone I didn't recognize. Instead, I felt proud. I'd protected my daughter. I'd stood up for myself. I'd refused to be a sufferer, and I'd made sure that the people who'd tried to use me paid the price for their choices. Erica and Cole had burned their weekend. I'd burned their whole world, and honestly, they deserved every bit of it. Looking down at Maddie's sleeping face, I made her a promise. "Nobody's ever going to hurt you the way they hurt me, kiddo. Daddy's got your back." She yawned and settled deeper into sleep, completely trusting and completely safe. For the first time in months, everything was exactly as it should be. Next time, maybe she'll just ask for a divorce.